Good morning. Okay, so we are going to finish reading Julius Caesar Act 5 today. So this is the last act. This is one of the shortest ones. I think it's going to go pretty quickly. We are getting to the big battle scene between Mark Antony and Octavius, and then Brutus and Cassius's armies. Okay, so that's where we're at. That's what's happening. So we are on the plains of Philippi whenever we begin Act 5. I'm going to go ahead and get the scene started. We are on page 901 in your textbook, okay? So page 901.
Now, Antony, our hopes are answered. You said the enemy would not come down, but keep the hills and upper regions. It proves not so. Their battles are at hand. They mean to warn us at Philippi here, answering before we do demand of them.
Tut, I am in their bosoms, and I know wherefore they do it. They could be content to visit other places and come down with fearful bravery, thinking by this face to fasten in our thoughts that they have courage. 'Tis not so.
Prepare ye, generals. The enemy comes on in gallant show. Their bloody sign of battle is hung out, and something to be done immediately.
Octavius, lead your battle softly on upon the left hand of the even field.
Upon the right hand, I, keep thou the left.
Why do you cross me in this exigent?
I do not cross you, but I will do so.
Okay, so first thing I need to point out here is Octavius and Antony, as they're talking about kind of the battle plan. The Brutus and Cassius, their army is coming. They see them. They see they have the flags up that indicate they are ready for battle. They're coming toward them. And Antony tells Octavius, remember, Antony is a military leader, so he's pretty good at figuring out stuff for what you should do on a battlefield. He says to Octavius, lead your battle softly upon the left hand of the even field. Octavius says right away, upon the right hand I, keep thou the left. Antony says, why do you cross me in this exigent? And Octavius is like, I don't cross you, but I'll do so, you know. So right here we see a little bit of a bit of an issue between Antony and Octavius. I need you to know, and if you remember from whenever we were doing the history reflections where we were learning about the history of the time, Octavius does, lead more individually after all of this is happening. Antony, for a bit, helps him, but Antony actually ends up kind of falling from favor. Some of the different choices he makes and things that he does. So just throwing it out there, they're having issues between the two of them. Antony is giving Octavius advice, and Octavius is like, dude, I'm going to do what I want, which isn't ideal whenever you're thinking about generals and who's going to take what group of the army to what part of the battlefield. So that's not perfect. You really want your generals to kind of all be thinking the same things and agreeable. Like, oh, you take the left, I'll take the right. Oh, okay, yeah, no problem. Got it. So this isn't perfect. Okay, now they're meeting in the middle with with Cassius and Brutus. So let's see what type of conversation we have between these four men.
They stand and would have parley.
Stand fast, Vatinius. We must out and talk.
Mark Antony, shall we give sign of battle?
No, Caesar, we will answer on their charge. Make forth. The generals would have some words.
Stir not until the signal.
Words before blows? Is it so, countrymen?
Okay, let me just point something out really quickly. So they're meeting up in the middle. We have the four powerful men. One thing I want you to notice is Octavius says, Mark Antony, shall we give sign of battle? Antony responds to him, no, Caesar, we will answer on their charge. Make forth, the generals would have some words. So we're not going to go into battle. We're going to speak first. He calls Octavius Caesar. So this is kind of interesting because Caesar was Julius Caesar's name. Octavius is Octavius Caesar. He's his relation. Caesar was never supposed to be necessarily the name of the emperor, of the person in charge of Rome. Caesar becomes the name of the person in charge of Rome. So really, Antony is referencing, Caesar was known for being ambitious, for kind of wanting to do things on his own, and the people supported him. But he wasn't really like a team player so much. That was Julius Caesar. And now Antony is calling Octavius Caesar. on his own. So, maybe Antony is starting to notice a bit of a trend where, and maybe Antony accepts that. If you remember, Antony followed Julius Caesar really perfectly. He obeyed him. So as Octavius takes on this mantle of leadership and takes on more and more of the power, Antony is kind of acquiescing a bit in some ways. So I just thought that was interesting. Okay, so we're having this conversation between the two groups of men. They're talking instead of fighting first.
Not that we love words better, as you do.
Good words are better than bad strokes, Octavius.
In your bad strokes, Brutus, you give good words. Witness the hole you made in Caesar's heart, crying, "Long live, hail Caesar!"
Antony, the posture of your blows are yet unknown, but for your words, they rob the Hydla bees and leave them honeyless.
Not stingless, too.
Oh, yes. And soundless, too. For you have stolen their buzzing, Antony, and very wisely threat before you sting.
Villains, you did not so when your vile daggers hacked one another in the sides of Caesar. You showed your teeth like apes, and fawned like hounds, and bowed like bondmen kissing Caesar's feet, whilst damned Casca, like a cur behind, struck Caesar on the neck.
Oh, you flatterer! Flatterers! Now, Brutus, thank yourself. This tongue had not offended so today if Cassius might have ruled.
Come, the cause. If arguing make us sweat, the proof of it will turn to redder drops. Look, I draw a sword against conspirators. When think you that the sword goes up again? Never. Till Caesar's 33 wounds be well avenged, or till another Caesar have added slaughter to the sword of traitors.
Caesar! Thou canst not die by traitors' hands, unless thou bringst them with thee.
So I hope. I was not born to die on Brutus' sword.
Oh, if thou wert the noblest of thy strain, young man, thou couldst not die more honourable.
A peevish schoolboy, worthless of such honor, joined with a masker and a reveler.
Old Cassius still.
Come, Antony, away! Defiance, traitors, hurl we in your teeth! If you dare fight today, come to the field. If not, when you have stomachs.
Why now? Blow winds, swell billow, and swim bark. The storm is up and all is on the hazard.
Oh, Lucilius. Hark, a word with you.
Messala.
What says my general?
Messala, this is my birthday. As this very day was Cassius born, give me thy hand, Messala. Be thou my witness that against me.
I'm going to pause for just a second, just because I want to talk about the rest of the conversation between the four powerful men. So you have Brutus and Cassius, and then Antony and Octavius, and they all kind of meet in the middle of the battlefield, and they're like throwing back insults. They're like, you're ugly, so are you. It's very juvenile. It's like a schoolyard kind of meeting, right? Okay, so they're like Antony and Octavius are both talking about Cassius and Brutus stabbing Caesar in the back. They're talking about, oh, I can't trust you, and rightfully, that's not wrong. And Brutus and Cassius are, Cassius says, a peevish schoolboy worthless of such honor, joined with a masker and a reveler. So Cassius is just called Octavius a peevish schoolboy. That's like a little kid who doesn't get his way, a peevish schoolboy, worthless of such honor. So you shouldn't be Caesar. You're not worth that title. Like, adorable that you want to be, but no. And then he calls Antony a masker and a reveler. So a masker is somebody who masks who they really are, and a reveler is somebody who likes to party. So Cassius just called Antony those two things. Yikes. And Antony says, old Cassius still, so you're always throwing the insults. You're always saying the rude things, And so they were trying to figure out if there was a way to come to an agreement of some kind without people dying. No, there's no way for that to happen. So that's not going to work out. And so then Octavius is like, come on, Antony, might as well go back. There's nothing to do here. And he says, if you guys dare to meet us on the battlefield, we'll see you then. If you have the stomachs for it, if you can handle it, if you're strong enough and brave enough. So they leave. And now Cassius and Brutus part. Brutus is going to talk to Lucilius, who is his servant, and then Cassius breaks away to talk to Messala. And he is talking to him. He's telling him, by the way, it's Cassius's birthday. Happy birthday, Cassius. And then let's see what else he says.
My will, as Pompey was, am I compelled to set upon one battle all our liberties. You know that I held Epicurus strong and his opinion. Now I change my mind, and partly credit things that do presage. Coming from Sardis on our former ensign, 2 mighty eagles fell. And there they perched, gorging and feeding from our soldiers' hands, who to Philippi here consorted us. This morning are they fled away and gone, and in their steads do ravens, crows, and kites fly o'er our heads, and downward look on us as we were sickly prey. Their shadows seem a canopy most fatal, under which our army lies, ready to give up the ghost. Believe it.
Okay, so Cassius is looking at all the like bird signs again. Remember, these are very superstitious people, the ancient Romans. I mean, they believe in like a gazillion gods and goddesses. And so, I mean, just throwing it out there, like it's not like they believe in reality and science and things. I mean, that's way out in the future. So he's looking up and he's seeing these eagles were flying around and now they're not. And, you know, like there are just like some very specific things that he's looking at and he's thinking this is going to be a bad day. And then he says, you know, he's talking about the shadows seem a canopy most fatal, and under which our army lies, ready to give up the ghost. You know, even think, you know, maybe it's stormy, maybe it's overcast. Have you ever like walked outside and been like, oh, it's an ominous day, bad things? We don't really believe in that, of course. You know, we're not really that superstitious when it comes to weather and things like that, but they are. And so, in that term, give up the ghost, that means to die. So you may have heard that because that is still a phrase that we use sometimes whenever we're speaking of somebody dying. Yeah, he gave up the ghost, you know, that type of thing. Okay.
Not so. I but believe it partly, for I am fresh of spirit, and resolved to meet all perils very constantly.
Even so, Lucilius.
Now, most noble Brutus, the gods today stand friendly, that we may lovers in peace lead on our days to age. But since the affairs of men rest still uncertain, let's reason with the worst that may befall. If we do lose this battle, then is this the very last time we shall speak together? What are you then determined to do?
Even by the rule of that philosophy by which I did blame Cato for the death which he did give himself, I know not how, but I do find it cowardly and vile, for fear of what might fall, so to prevent the time of life, arming myself with patience, to stay the providence of some high powers that govern us below.
Then,
Okay, so Cassius and Brutus are now talking about what will they do if they lose? What's going to happen? Cassius says, if we do lose this battle, then is this the very last time we shall speak together? And what are you then determined to do? What's your plan of attack? If we lose, what are you, Brutus, going to do? Brutus says, even by the rule of that philosophy by which I did blame Cato for the death which he did give himself, I know not how, but I do find it cowardly and vile for fear of what might fall. So he doesn't believe in suicide. He thinks it's cowardly and vile. Brutus isn't one who thinks that's kind of like the easy way out. And so, interesting, okay?
if we lose this battle, you are contented to be led in triumph through the streets of Rome?
No, Cassius. No. Think not, thou noble Roman, that ever Brutus will go bound to Rome. He bears too great a mind. But this same day must end the work the Ides of March begun. And whether we shall meet again, I know not. Therefore, our everlasting farewell take. Forever and forever farewell, Cassius. If we do meet again, why, we shall smile. If not, why then this parting was well made.
Forever and forever farewell, Brutus. If we do meet again, we'll smile indeed. If not, 'tis true, this parting was well made.
Why then, lead on. Oh, that a man might know the end of this day's business ere it come. But it sufficeth that the day will end, and then the end is known. Come, ho! Away!
Okay, so Brutus says, I'm not going to kill myself. That's not a thing I really believe in. That's cowardly. And Cassius says, are you willing to be led in chains through the streets of Rome? You who have been a very high-ranking official in Rome, are you willing to do that? And Brutus says, no, that's definitely not my plan. So he's not really sure what he wants to do, but he knows that probably suicide is not the exact way he's going to finish things, okay? But he knows he doesn't want to be led through Rome where everybody can mock him and be like, wow, you really screwed up, Brutus. So they say, okay, well, if we don't see each other again, it was good working with you. This is their goodbye. And you really get the sense in this conversation, they kind of know the direction this battle is going. They see the writing on the wall to an extent, and they are aware that they're not going to really make it through this thing successfully. You get that feeling. That's the end of scene 1. Scene 2 is definitely like a solid minute long, or 30 seconds. It's 30 seconds long. So we're going to go ahead and listen to that real quick too. You see the kitty? She's cleaning.
Right! Right, Messala, right! And give these bills unto the legions on the other side. Let them set on at once, for I perceive but cold demeanor in Octavius' wing, and sudden push gives them the overthrow. Right, Messala! Let them all come down!
Okay, so that scene is super small. I guess it's really more of, in this, because people are in different places on the battlefields, there's another scene that's really small too, where it's just kind of shifting on the battlefield. So Brutus is somewhere, and he has given Messala orders to take to some people that are in a different spot on the battlefield. And so that's what Messala's job is. And he's noticing that Octavius, he says, for I perceive but cold demeanor in Octavius's wing, and sudden push gives them the overthrow. So sudden attack will defeat them, is what that means. So he says, ride, let them all come down. So he's trying to get some men who are kind of up on a hillside to come down and attack, while he's attacking Octavius kind of from the front direction, and then have those people up on the hillside come down from like maybe the side, and that between the two, Octavius's army will be overwhelmed. So Octavius has a group in one area, Antony has a group in another, Brutus has military with him, Cassius has people with him. And so, of course, this is fun kind of old battle strategies that, aren't quite the thing that we see anymore. But whenever people used to plan battles, they kind of had their idea of where troops would be. And they had an idea of the local terrain. And then how would the hills and the valleys in that terrain, how would that help or hinder your attack? And so it's interesting. He's trying to figure out what's the best way to defeat them, hopefully. Okay, so that is Act 5, Scenes 1 and 2. You can go ahead and answer those study questions.